I am sure no Terraria player who has reached the hard mode is any more surprised to see a melee weapon which is ranged and, all things considered, pretty much magic. Long before defeating the Wall of Flesh, you already use stuff that shoot magical swords or simply rain them. Storm Spear as an example isn't much different than its magical counterpart. Then you have boomerangs that are supposedly melee. But of course, hard mode takes everything and multiplies it with crazy. Even at the beginning of it, you get this beautiful melee weapon. But if a flaying knife doesn't scratch the itch of playing a magical class but having the privileges of high defense, then I present you the Death Sickle. Between having one of the most satisfying attack sounds and confusingly being a sickle and not a scythe even though it is larger than the player, Death Sickle is also famous with it, well, being popular. So you probably know about this weapon already, but compared to other stuff, is it really that good? Let's test it out and see what this edgelord spinner can do. When you reach the hard mode and defeat one mechanical boss, there's a 5% chance for a solar eclipse to turn morning into midnight. Be careful however, if you want to get the Death Sickle, you need to defeat all 3 mechanical bosses, as the monster it drops from, the Reapers, don't show up before then. And when you actually get the mobs in the event and defeat them, you have a 5% chance to drop the Death Sickle for expert and higher difficulties. But my condolences to your sanity if you are farming it in classic mode, as the drop rate is half of that. And since you can get this item right after the max, Death Sickle lands right here in our progression line. I always knew about the power of this weapon, but not really cared to check its weaknesses. When you play the game normally, sometimes you change out of a weapon not because of its drawbacks, but simply because you get something stronger. But before we move on to that, let's look at the elephant in the room. The positives, namely the range and pierce of the Spinny Boy. With every swing, Death Sickle shoots out a spinning projectile that can pierce the enemies and pass through walls. Its attack speed and damage are pretty high, which makes the weapon one of the best choices for melee players. It shines especially against groups of enemies, as you can hit many at once, pierce them, and even stunlock them. But of course the weapon has such a low range, we can barely call its projectiles as ranged. Sure, they can stay in the air for a while and pass through blocks and all that, but 12 tiles of range limit makes itself obvious when you use it against bosses. And if you thought your purple swingers disappear while hitting enemies, you would be correct, as Death Sickle projectiles disappear after hitting 5 times. And if all these weren't enough, these purple guys apply 10 ticks of static invincibility to enemies they hit, which in simpler terms mean you can only hit 6 times per second to an enemy with this weapon. Even if you showered the enemy in purple rain, you cannot go beyond that limit. When you get a Death Sickle, the obvious next step is to slap Plantera in the face with it. And when you are done with that, post-Plantera dungeon awaits. The wall penetration is like a gift for traversing the dungeon and farming, so go wild with it. But apart from these 2 scenarios, I also wanted to see how it fares against the golem. If you watched this series before, you know that I do my tests on expert mode without modifiers on my items. And let me tell you, the recently buffed golem is no joke. Plantera was a walk in the park with Death Sickle, but against golem, the short range and the lack of damage immediately became visible. Don't let the times on the screen fool you. Plantera took only 1 try, but for golem, I probably died at least 6 times and only managed to win on the 7th thanks to me playing like a god. I mean, look at all these sweet moves, damn smooth dodges all around, playing with the boss like a toy. Okay, if you forgot how many times I died, let's move on. Of course, we cannot do without testing and comparing other weapons with our Spinny Boy here. For that, I have tested True Excalibur, Light Disc, Yelets, Mushroom Spear and True Knight's Edge on Plantera to see how they fare. Let's start with Mushroom Spear not. Just let's ignore that option. I don't know why I haven't tried that. Moving on with True Knight's Edge. This sword has weirdly delayed attacks, so it is hard to aim with it, which resulted in the longest time. But True Knight's Edge has one of the longest reach in the list, so it is a safe option that you can easily use. Light Disc lacks some damage for sure, but apart from that it was the easiest, the safest, and probably the most fun option to use here. Yelets was, well, Let's say I'm glad it didn't share the same fate with Mushroom Spear here. Even though I got a good kill time with it, the amount of deaths and retries just don't make up for it. The second phase of Plantera needs some bigger guns than this tiny flying dot. And finally, True Excalibur. I wasn't expecting it to beat the Death Sickle to be honest, but the fast attack speed and the long reach of the weapon covers you from Plantera's tentacles and lets you keep a constant damage on it. If you can play aggressive enough, it definitely rewards you. But for this fight, Death Sickle is of course the best option. You can play safer than True Excalibur, aim better than True Knight's Edge, and have better damage than Light Disc while laughing at Yellets at the same time. If you don't mind the grind for it, then it is 100% worth it. Terraria is an incredibly fun game, but it wouldn't be correct to say it has perfect pacing. Early game can take a lot of time while late game ends in the blink of an eye. Death Sickle is one of the weapons that take the biggest hit from this. It is iconic, powerful, flexible and fun, but short-lived. It is a get out of Plantera free card, but can't keep up so strongly with later content. And as with many weapons in this stage of the game, it is easy to replace with a stronger item right after Plantera. In my runs, I always try to get this item. Not necessarily because of the damage, but because of the lovely sound. But how about you? Are you a swinger, or just can't be bothered to farm for it? Let me know in the comments and thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe for more Terraria content. See you in the next video, and as always, have a great day!